Something that nobody thinks about. We'll buy $100, $200 knives. You know, we'll buy packs that are a couple $100. My pack was 1,000. I mean, we'll spend money on a lot of things. But we don't think about this, a sewing kit, do we? I bought this sewing kit back in May 5th, 2023. I'll be honest with you, I was trying to save money. And I wanted something compact. I wanted something light. The idea of compact and light is what was really resonating with me at the time. It was only $6. 2 or 3 days ago, I had a problem. I decided to use my little kit. I have 2 or 3 sewing machines, but I decided to use the kit. So I pull it out of my pack. I pop it open. Heck, the needles were still sealed. I pull a couple out, and then I start stitching. One bent on me. The other one broke. I was like, are you kidding me? This kit actually lacks one thing. And I'll tell you what that one thing is. So, I paid $6, but it's garbage. There was nothing in this kit that was any good. Even the scissors didn't work. So I was like, wow. So now my quest begins to build a proper sewing kit. And there is not a kit out there that works. I'm going to be all honest with you on that one. So the first thing I needed was some type of case to hold what I was going to buy. This is the best case I came up with. Now there's this case that you will find videos from 10 years ago on people buying. This case is really tiny. You notice there's no elastic. You can't see inside that pocket. There's no elastic across the top of those pockets holding anything together. This says one little spool of nylon. If you buy it in black, you get 3 spools. I don't understand what that is. Okay? Of course, most people like multicam, so the multicam pulls you in, and that's what you want to buy, and it's much smaller. It's much tinier than having this one. This one's a little bit bigger. It's all black, but it holds what we need. Now, what's important about this, notice the needles here. Okay, they're inside a plastic cylinder there. That's important. We don't want our needles sitting in a little plastic bag and they're just flopping around everywhere. We're going to lose them. It's going to be a mess. Bad enough you're sitting in the bush in a chair or you're sitting on the ground. You're going to have to spread out your shemagh and make sure you don't lose them. Very, very important, especially if you're going to stitch something. Now, BDUs, for example, like I just got a multicam set in and I was noticing it's heavy-duty buttons. There's no zippers. And the reason for that is because it's much easier to repair a button than it is to repair a zipper. And that's the reason BDUs have buttons. Easier to fix in the field, right? But even this kit's lacking something. It does have the scissors. It does have a way to hold the needles. We do have 3 spools. The golden thing in the bottom right there is kind of like a thimble. How good it is, I don't know. It ain't in yet. But I'm mainly buying it because of this case and because of the scissors. That's it. That's really the only reason I'm buying it. So let's move on. So if I take you here, and I'm going to spread this out, and don't have a heart attack because that is 45. I'm going to explain. So I'm going to start from the top, all right? Our case to hold everything we're going to need for a proper sewing kit is $14. We're going to come down now, and I'm going to explain this. I'm buying a brown and a black. Now, Gutterman, you can search Google, is known as the best thread out there, the strongest. It's a polyester thread, and if you're going to put buttons on or you're going to sew something, aren't you going to want the best thread instead of having to do it over and over? This stuff is the best you can get. So 2 colors, you're into $10, right? So then we're going to come down, and in this here is the best thimble you can buy. This is made out of leather with metal here, and it fits on your finger. Now, they have all kinds of different sizes. Nice thing about Amazon, you can always send it back and do an exchange for a bigger one or whatever, if your fingers are too big. So, that's very important. Without a thimble, especially when it comes to BDU, it's very hard to press on that needle to push it through for the button, right? That is very, very important. So, you have to actually think you want a good thimble. Well, the thimble alone is $12. Then, the needles. These are considered the best needles you can buy. Bohan, however you say it. This is an assortment of hand needle, is what it is. $7 doesn't sound a lot, but when you start adding up $5 here, $7 here, it adds up quick. So remember, our kit comes with a bag, scissors, everything we need. But we're going to replace some of those items with these items. Okay? So I'll go back there. We are not going to use their needles. We're literally going to throw those needles in the garbage, and we're going to put our own needles in there. Then we got 3 bobbers there. 2 bobbers are going to be wrapped in black. 1 is going to be wrapped in brown. You can do what you want. Or you can get some extra bobbers and make up your own and buy some other colors. The buttons, they're okay. I'm going to take a look, see how big they are, how small they are. I might have to add some BDU buttons to fix anything in case a button pops off. Makes it kind of hard to walk with your pants if your buttons pop off, right? We got some safety pins. They come in handy. So you could safety pin your pants until you get home and maybe fix them. But if you're out there for 4 or 5 days, are you really going to want to do that? The scissors are nice. Nice touch. Some safety pins. Now, it does have here in the bottom right, that gold thing there, it does have a kind of like a thimble there. I'm sure it's pretty cheap. It's probably not very good. The scissors look pretty good. They're all stainless steel. They look all right to use, and they do crush down, so that makes them convenient. After all, we're just cutting thread. We're not really cutting much more than that. A little bit of material maybe, okay? And obviously they show the needles and everything that's in the kit. Now we can add to that kit. We can fit that thimble in there. If you look at that, there's room to put that thimble in there. So that is quite easy to do. Now, do you want to have a $7 kit that's garbage, it doesn't work, because I found that out 3 days ago? Or do you want to have a robust military sewing kit that you're going to be able to sew anything from buttons to hemming to you name it? Everybody looks at the backpacks and they're thinking fancy knife or they're thinking fancy medical, but nobody thinks of a good kit for sewing. I spent 3 days, 6 hours a day in my spare time trying to find the perfect kit. The best of the best is what I was looking for. A proper case. This was the best case I could get. Now, you can get cases that are huge. Well, I don't want that for a backpack. It has to be the perfect case where I can expand a little bit. But at the same time, it's easy to open and I can see where everything is. This became the best case I could find. I wish it was a multicam, but it's not. So it's something I'm going to have to deal with. It was the closest I could find to a sewing kit, and it runs almost $45. If you want the best of the best in your sewing kit, the best thread, the best needles, the best thimble. If you want a proper sewing kit, you are looking at spending that much money. Those garbage ones are cotton thread that breaks away. It's not going to hold your buttons. It might be good for a day or two. The needles are going to bend. It just doesn't have the quality. Anyhow, I'll have the links at the bottom of this stuff. You can pick it up. That is if you want a proper sewing kit. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.